I think it's also important to remember that 80% and in the game is better than 100% and on the sidelines. And at some point, you have to build something and let people play with it and test it and like it or don't like it or tell you some feedback, because it's easy to get in this analysis paralysis, right? Where it's like, I need to know, should the button be red or green? And I'm not going to develop anything. I'm not going to write the first line of code until I know what the last line of code should be. And that's foolish as well, right? It's foolish because you don't know what you don't know until you start walking down the path and discovering it. And expecting to know everything, whether you're on the sales side or the product development side, it's just not going to happen that way. Thank you for having me, Caden. Sure appreciate it. My name is John Long. I'm the CEO of Thynk AI. Have had a career in sales. Worked very closely with product teams to build products that customers want to buy. I had a little bit of an interesting background, entrepreneurial at the beginning of my career, running some small businesses, got into technology about 15 years ago, and have been selling and growing technology businesses for the last 15 years and enjoy what I'm doing.
I always love having former sales executives on the show, because one of the most valuable relationships for anyone on a product team, product manager, you could measure, I think, the effectiveness of a product manager by how well they get along with the revenue org.
Yep.
And that's always been a relationship that I've tried to maintain a strong connection. I measure the health of a good relationship by, hey, do you have a Gong account to their Gong instance? Are they letting you see the Gong calls, like the recordings?
Yeah.
To get insights? And are they letting you talk to customers? Do they trust you to talk to the customers? Are they letting you do interviews without getting in the way and saying, hey, I don't want you to mess this up? I think my first question is, I'll focus more on what we talked about, like in preparation for this interview, is that what are some measures of a healthy relationship between the sales org and the product org that you've noticed in your career, and how anyone listening here could really benefit and get shortcuts to better customer insights, like working with sales?
Yeah. So I think we can actually take a step back a little bit and even look at the larger organization in general,
Yeah.
right? For a company to be successful, and for a company to be successful and then scale successfully, they have to have good product market fit, right? And if you have sales in one silo and product in another silo, and the two never meet, product market fit is going to be a disaster, right? If the guys developing don't know what the guys using are actually doing with the tools, it's not going to work, right? And so I think that having a good relationship between sales or revenue and product is absolutely essential for nailing that product market fit. And you cannot scale, certainly rapidly scale, without that fit in place, right? Otherwise, you're trying to sell ice cubes to Eskimos, right? They don't need it. And so I think that it's very important to have product involved with and understanding the customer's needs. From a sales standpoint, one of my favorite sayings and then applications in business is sell the customer what they want to buy.
Mm.
And it sounds super simple. Like, well, of course, yeah, don't sell them something they don't want to buy. And yet I can't tell you how many times as a sales rep I've had to go into a meeting and the customer starts explaining, I need X, Y, and Z. And my product doesn't really do X, Y, or Z. It does A, B, and C. And I spend 90% of the sales process trying to convince them that A, B, and C is actually what they want to buy, and that A with this strange modification or B with that strange modification actually is an X or a Y, right? And so it gets really challenging as a sales rep if you're having to come up with creative ways to get the product to work because the product wasn't developed to fit the need to begin with.
Yeah. Inefficiency is probably like what led to the sales engineer role. at a company is you need a technical person to implement those workarounds. Maybe like looking at the anti-patterns, like what does a bad product and sales relationship look like? What I've noticed is when there's misalignment between the product and sales org, it looks a lot like the sales org either has terrible retention because it's no like top performing salesperson doesn't wants to sell ice to an Eskimo, to use your phrase, or they might swing the other side of the pendulum, which I've seen this where they might actually just start doing their own product work where they'll invent the offer, sell it, and then that pressures the product team to fulfill on the promises. And then
Yeah.
on the product side, it's like thinking that, oh, we could do our own customer discovery. We know the customer better. And they totally miss the mark on the implementation. And then there's friction because the sales team are like, this isn't gonna work. Like they
Sure.
don't want this. Is there any other anti patterns that you've seen in like
Yeah,
where
I
it
mean, I
hasn't
think
been
you're
working
hitting
well?
on quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Sales leadership is constantly preaching, sell what's on the truck.
Hmm.
Okay. Don't make up things. Don't sell vaporware. Don't sell things that don't exist. So there's friction that can be caused between the sellers and the sales leadership. There's friction then between the sales leadership and the product leadership, because that's oftentimes where those connections are taking place, right? Is the sales leader is going to the product leader saying, hey, we need the product to do these things and it's not doing it. And the product leader, if they're not in tune with what the customer really needs, they think they've built the perfect thing, right? Hey, no, we gave you the perfect product. Quit complaining and go and sell what we've built. And so it can be this spiral downward of friction, frustration. I think some of the signs that that's happening are things like you've talked about: sellers making things up, over promising and under delivering, churn, challenges in implementation. You talk to the implementation team and they're like, I wish the sales reps would actually represent the product accurately. I'm having to fix all of their problems. I've got customers that are frustrated from day one. Those are some of the things I think that exhibit when that relationship is off. Um, and then just general frustration across the teams. When it's on, though,
Hmm.
when there is good cohesion there, that's a special experience.
You
And
Could you tell me about a specific time in your career where it was working well and
yeah,
like maybe what rituals or habits you guys had as a result of that?
yeah, so I've had that happen a few times, and I've always been the type of seller that digs into the product. I know my product really
Yeah.
well. I've rarely used sales engineers because I've gotten to know the product well enough that I'm able to do what I need to do in terms of representing the product. And so in some cases, that's a little bit unique. Some organizations don't even allow that. They don't allow sellers to get into the product, but I've had a chance to do that fairly early in my technology career. I was hired by a company to help develop a new market. And I was the sales rep. There was no sales team. There was a sales rep and the product team. And I actually felt like I sat in the product team more often than I sat with the sales team, because there was a larger sales team selling to a different segment, different industry, similar products, but I was heavily embedded with the product team and I traveled with them extensively. Almost every trip that I took, I had a member of the product team with me, and we would go and meet with the customers. We would gather their needs and requirements. And then it wasn't me coming back and having to inform the product team what I learned on the trip. It was the product team coming back and developing for the customer, right? Almost a custom development scenario, but we were developing for an entire industry. And what that allowed us to do is, number one, we were a newcomer in the space. And so we had no incumbent relationships that we could use. So everything was having to unseat an incumbent, and from a sales perspective, which is challenging. But because my product team understood the needs of the market so well, the product that we developed had such a great fit that we were unseating incumbent technologies that were like a tenth of the cost of what we were bringing. And as a seller, you get a little nervous when you go into to a sales situation and there's some competitive bidding going on and you come in 10 times more than the competition. But because we understood the customer's needs so well and the product was such a good fit, we were having success and we were able to quickly grow that into a multi-million-dollar recurring revenue business segment within a larger business. And that was really special. Another time in my career, I came into a situation where the product market fit was just dialed. It was dialed. And that was really fun because rarely did I have to come up with creative applications for the product. People wanted it right out of the box, no modifications at all. And 90, maybe 95% of the people that we spoke with wanted to move forward in the sales process. They wanted a quote. And so, from a selling perspective, that was a dream come true. I wasn't having to do any sort of sales tap dances, right? Where it's like, oh, really? It's what you want. Believe me, it's really what you want.
Yeah.
And everybody that I talked to wanted the product. And that was a fun time. Rapid growth. We were able to scale extremely quickly. We had, I think it was 3 or 4 years of 100% plus year over year growth. So we were more than doubling every single year for multiple years in a row. And those are special experiences. They don't happen often, but man, when they do happen, and the sales and the product are just so in line with what the customer needs that you're able to just move very quickly, and the scaling doesn't scale complexity, that's a special experience.
So in that example where it was dialed in and all you had to do was sell widgets, essentially, like what was that product leader doing very well to direct the team to develop such a well-rounded solution that didn't require any like custom implementations?
So it was a combination of things. Number one, the product leader knew and understood the market well.
Hmm.
They had spent time out in the market. And this was one of those things where I came in at the right time. They had spent 10 or 12 years prior to my joining the team figuring out the product market fit.
Mm.
So it wasn't an overnight success where it was like suddenly, we got it, let's go. This was, what do they say? An overnight success, 10 years in the
Yeah,
making.
yeah, 10-year overnight success. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of time spent. Some of it was also advancements in technology that just hadn't previously existed. And so there were problems that we couldn't solve previously until technology caught up with the needs. But once the technology caught up and this company was forward thinking enough to be able to help lead that charge, we were bringing solutions to problems that customers didn't know solutions existed to help solve. And that was unique. There was very little competition. We were very early solution to products that had existed for a long, or problems that had existed for a long time, with a product that worked really nicely. And so it was a combination, I think, of timing, time in the market, technology catching up with needs, and then being able to solve problems that previously hadn't really been solvable, at least not easily solvable, and at the price point that we were able to help solve them.
Whenever I look at a company that's really crushing it, figured out the product market fit, 10 years, kind of 7 to 10 years sounds like that sweet spot where they've rounded out the offer. The companies that I've seen that have done it faster, like within 5 years, which is incredible, right? Especially as a new entrant into a market, something that's as simple as expense management software. We're both from Utah. One of the unicorns that came out of Utah was Divvy. And what I noticed how they operate, and then also, the startups that they advise and operate now, is that they see the product manager role, they call them GMs, right? They treat them like a more of a business person, like a business unit,
Mm.
general manager instead of a product manager. And how they operate is that they go on sales calls all the time. It isn't what the anti-pattern I've seen where product isn't aligned with sales is that they want to do their own customer interactions in a separate track because it's
Mm.
more scientific, or that their customer interview skills are better. But these companies, like the companies that they represent, like they hit the nail on the head really fast, like what the customer needs. And they have the designers coming on sales calls and doing like demos of prototypes to get like zero in on what the right solution is. And by doing that, like doing like prototype testing in the sales call, and being like, okay, well, the solution's not there yet, but here's a prototype. Do you feel like that? How do you resonate with this? Okay, cool. But you're building your pipeline as a result, and you're getting them excited about, oh yeah, let me know when that's ready. And yeah, it's sales and product are like lockstep. Like the product doesn't look down at the sales process. Like they're using company resources more effectively, like going on sales calls with the sales team. I think all my best customer interactions or customer tours, I always was going with the salesperson, and I was just
Mhm.
riding shotgun on their sales visits and then just asking questions, trying not to derail or make it sound like I'm studying the customer.
And an inherent in that type of relationship is a foundation of trust,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that's a key element in working towards that type of experience, that type of relationship is product people trusting sales reps. And so when the sales reps come back and say, my customers don't like this, they want it to do this instead of that, trusting them and saying, okay, I think that you actually are asking the right questions. You're having the right conversations and you're bringing me back intelligence from the customers. You've got to trust them. And then on the flip side, sales reps need to trust the product guys enough to say, yeah, come along with me,
Yeah.
right? Come along with me and not be afraid for the product guy to ask questions and make suggestions. My business partner now is actually the guy that ran the product. He developed the product that I was selling 15 years ago in the first example I shared. And he and I have traveled, I don't even know, well over 100 times together,
Wow.
well over 100 times together. And it's because we were constantly connected at the hip. I was selling, he was developing, and we had this deep level of trust with each other. And for 7 or 8 years with that company, we traveled together multiple times a month, going out and visiting customers and gathering information. And it got to the point where I used him to help me in my sales. He used me to help him in his product development. I would come in and share updates with the product team on customer visits. He would come with me to meet with customers and share product developments. We were cross pollinating our two worlds on a regular basis every single week. Either I was in with the product team or he was with me on sales calls, one or the other.
Yeah. And for a lot of anyone like listening that has struggled with sales orgs and even like talking to like past interaction myself, like my past self, is this feeling that there is like sometimes like a lack of trust that the sales team will come with a solution like, hey, the product needs to be able to do this. And you do it, but then it ends up not being like the right solution. And I think we've all been burned at that point, like at some point. Like where have you noticed any ways where you communicating a customer need to the product team didn't end so successfully in the way that you communicated it? And then what did you have to unlearn, if anything, to have a better approach them with a problem without them getting defensive and showing that you respect the process or
I think that developing product is a little bit like playing Battleship, right? We do our best to get close,
yeah,
right? But we're lobbing things over and hoping that we hit something,
yeah,
right? And it's interesting because I've seen in my career where sales reps will come back to product teams and say, hey, I need it to do these things. And the product team goes and develops those things. And it's not quite right. It's close, right? We splashed the ship, but we didn't hit the ship, right? And when that happens, the product team inherently says, oh, the sales rep doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know how to gather requirements. I don't trust him. I'm not going to listen to him anymore. I'm doing this on my own. But if the product team develops something and they miss the ship, then they're like, it's okay. We got closer.
yeah, yeah.
And
Experimenting.
you're totally
We're
okay with it.
experimenting. It's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What we developed is actually foundational to what we're going to be able to then provide later. And so it was a step in the right direction.
yeah.
Suddenly it's okay. Right?
Uh-huh.
And so I think it's important for product teams to understand that we all miss, right? And it's important for sales reps to understand we all miss. And sometimes the product team develops something. And I genuinely don't think anyone ever sets out to be like, I'm going to build a product that really doesn't do anything. That doesn't happen. The product teams are doing their best to build the best tech that they possibly can. And the sales reps are doing their best to represent the customers in the best way possible. But this is a communications game that is very difficult to manage because there's generally a lot of cooks in the kitchen on the customer side. And you talk to one person and they're like, "Oh, the product absolutely needs to have a button in the upper left-hand corner because that's where everybody looks." And you talk to the next person in that same organization, they're like, "Oh, the button needs to be in the bottom left corner because that's where everybody." And so we're trying to sometimes develop to multiple people's needs, wants, and desires. And you're never going to get it exactly right, but hopefully we're getting closer and hopefully we're hitting boats every once in a while, right? And then we've got something solid and we can start to kind of hit around that. And like Battleship, you eventually end up sinking the ship. Hopefully product doesn't sink the ship. Hopefully we're building instead of thinking, but
Clearly,
you get the
yeah.
idea.
Well, it's the idea that customers aren't fully transparent on what drives their motivations. You're getting
Yep.
like this maybe the supply side. I need to do this functionality, but the best salespeople that I've met, and a really great book on sales that I was actually recommended by like a product leader to read, is called, I think it's called Demand Driven Sales. It's been a while, but it basically it's coaching salespeople to get down to the root cause of like why someone wants something. And if you're trying to make software to improve the healthcare experience, you just get someone to talk about the last time they had to make an insurance claim. And then you empathize with them and say, "Oh, that happened. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened." And you're getting down to the point of, "Oh no, it has nothing to do with I need this button. It has more to do with I felt scared. I didn't know my insurance was going to get accepted here, and I got frustrated, and there was no clear way to know if I was going to get overcharged." And that's why it's so important just to go on the sales calls with the salespeople, but even like from a sales enablement perspective, like training the salespeople to just have more deeper dive interview skills so that even if there isn't a product person there, they're getting good intelligence anyways. That's just me thinking out loud, but
And I think part of the challenge in all of that also is customers don't really know what they want. And most businesses have no idea how the businesses actually run. You go into a business and you say, "Okay, what do you guys do?" And they say, "Oh, we produce widgets." "Okay, how do you produce widgets?" "I don't know. Stuff comes in one end and then things happen and then widgets come out the other end,"
yeah.
right? They have no idea that the way that things are actually happening is Mary is sitting at a desk in the middle of this process and she's gathering information, assembling things, passing it on to Peter. Peter connects part A and part B. They have no idea how the sausage is actually made. They just know it's made. And when we're talking to leaders at businesses, they're not down in the they're often not the ones using the tools that we're building and selling. And getting down to the boots on the ground, if you will, the people that will actually be using the tools is super helpful. But even they don't always know. If it's a larger organization, they know their slice of the puzzle, of the pie.
Hmm.
I'm mixing metaphors here, right? They know their little piece, but they don't necessarily know what's happening to the left or the right of them. And so it's important to recognize that's part of the product development design process is trying to uncover as much of that as possible. But I think it's also important to remember that 80% and in the game is better than 100% and on the sidelines. And at some point, you have to build something and let people play with it and test it and like it or don't like it or tell you some feedback because it's easy to get in this analysis paralysis, right? Where it's like, I need to know, should the button be red or green? And I'm not going to develop anything. I'm not going to write the first line of code until I know what the last line of code should be. And that's foolish as well, right? It's foolish because you don't know what you don't know until you start walking down the path and discovering it. And expecting to know everything, whether you're on the sales side or the product development side, is it's just not going to happen that way, right?
Do you feel like that's part of the developing the right customer segment and ideal customer profile is like figuring out how to target the right department, right? Or is it, if it's like an enterprise grade like solution where it's the whole organization's going to use it? Like, how do you start from maybe initial talks with an executive to getting access to the boots on the ground to find out what's blocking their teams from like adopting the product?
About ICP is certainly valid. Trying to solve everybody's problems across multiple industries or positions within a company, that's challenging, right? A one size fits all typically doesn't work. And so getting more specific is helpful. But I think also learning to fail fast is part of that. Try things. If it works, great. Then take the next step. If it doesn't work, go back and figure out what they didn't like, where it went wrong, and then try again. Obviously, we're now in the AI space, and that's one of the beauties of doing things with AI is you can test things so quickly. You can develop something, you can test it, and find out what's working, what's not working really fast. And that's one of the benefits I think of AI today is that you're able to move so quickly to try things, and it's in most cases a pretty low hurdle to go over to say, oh, you need it to do this. Okay, hang on, I'll work on it tonight. I'll have that ready for you tomorrow.
Yeah, could you tell
Because you can move quick.
Yeah, could you tell me a little bit more about your current company? And I'll use it with like this framing here from your intake form, like that some people are nervous about using AI in business and sales. Is there a natural progression that you see regarding AI adoption? Like, what's the best way to get started using AI in the sales space? I Because I think that's what your company does. And could you like walk me through how you failed fast as you started this company and what opportunities you saw and what was like the origin story?
Yeah, so I'll start with a little bit of origin story and then maybe talk about what we've seen in terms of kind of that adoption curve of AI for businesses and for people in general. My business partner and I were starting a new business about a year and a half ago. And we had a lot of experience on the product side, although I had finally pulled him over to a sales role about 3 years, 4 years ago now. So he had been in sales for a little bit. I had been in sales for a long time. And we knew that we needed to use technology to create some efficiencies in our new business. And one of the things that we wanted to do was use AI to try and handle as much of the pre-sales process as possible. So the SDR type work, qualifying and scheduling customers or leads. And so we searched and searched trying to find a technology, an AI tool that would do what we wanted it to do. It needed to be able to make and receive phone calls and receive texts, emails, ask questions, hold meetings, schedule meetings, qualify people, disqualify people, etc. And we searched and searched and we found tools that could do one piece or the other, but we couldn't find something that did all of it. And we were at the point where we're like, I don't think this exists. And we've got all these parts and pieces, but nothing that actually does everything. And so we kind of gave up a little bit on the idea that we could just buy a tool that would do this. And so as like a side project, we started trying to build a sales AI tool that we could just use in our business. And long story short, we built something, started using it, and we realized, wow, this is actually really good that we built to use in our business, might be better than the business itself. And so we kind of scrapped some of our plans and elevated this product and ended up where we are today, where we've got this AI communication tool that certainly is well optimized for sales, but it's also being used in customer service, customer support. HR has used it, accounting has used it. So it's anyone that needs to communicate with customers now is able to use it. But excuse me, we had to test and try things and we failed far more times than we succeeded. But once you succeed, you don't have to keep testing, right? You're like, oh, that part worked.
Mhm.
And now we can move forward from there. Funny story. So we were hiring. This was, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. And we put some job postings out and we got like 150 job applicants in 3 days. And we looked at each other and we're like, how in the world are we going to get through all of these? This is way more response than we anticipated. What are we going to do? And so we looked at each other and said, duh, let's just build an AI agent to do the interviews for us. So we built an AI agent and we threw it together really pretty quickly. And it worked fabulously. It reached out to everyone, invited them to come in for an interview. And then it held, I think, like 70 or 80 interviews in 4 days,
Like,
which was
what
awesome.
what did that look like?
So it would reach out to the folks that had applied, thank them for their application, confirm their contact information, and then set a meeting for them to hold an interview. We had a few different positions open, so we trained it to be able to interview people with the right set of questions based off of the position that they were applying for. And so it held these interviews, met with the people, asked them all the questions, and then gave us all the data. And it worked really well until we realized that we forgot to tell the agent that there was an end to its process. And so it would get done interviewing people. And then within the next 24 to 48 hours, it started reaching out to everyone again and scheduling another interview. And so everyone thought they made it to the second round of interviews.
Oh my goodness. So like did the candidates know that they were talking to AI or
Yes, for the most part, they did. We had a few that probably didn't even realize it was AI. It's good enough. Our tech is good enough that
wow.
you don't always know that you're talking to AI. It's pretty human-like, but most of them knew and they loved it, right? If you're interviewing to work with an AI company and they're not using AI, like there's a problem, right? And our philosophy has always been we're our first customer, right? We build things for ourselves, and if it works, then we offer it to our customers, right? And so this was a chance for us to test a new area of our business, and it worked really well. Other than a few short-sighted things that we didn't do, like once the interview has been completed, stop scheduling more interviews with the people,
Yeah,
right? So
just
I
send
mean,
us a summary of what they said and
yeah, which it was doing that, but it was just continuing to reach out and
yeah,
it,
that's crazy to think. There was a company I remember, I don't even know if they're still around, called HireVue, where they tried to solve this problem of giving everyone an at bat for the interview and
yeah.
using like video clips or something like that. I actually did an interview using their app, and what it would look like is someone asking the question in a video clip, and then I would have to record my answer, and then they would like have to like manually review it. But I've done like job prep since the advent of like really good voice interfaces to AI, where I'll give it like info on the company and have it like interview me, and it feels real. And I think that's what's exciting about AI is the ability to do these like repeatable like interpersonal tasks. Like it gives everyone a shot to interview where
Mhm.
due to constraints in in the history, like you could be qualified, but you're not going to get it like a phone screen or FaceTime anyways.
Yeah.
And so at least everyone gets a shot now. And then I didn't know that this is like how developed your technology was, but from like an SDR perspective of just developing business, what gave you the confidence that you could just have this reach out to leads? And was it because most of the interactions when you're like either cold emailing or like just doing any outreach to try to develop like a pipeline, like there are repeatable patterns that you've noticed
Yeah.
that okay, this could be delegated to an AI.
Yeah. So I think most technology, AI certainly included, is oftentimes the byproduct of people not wanting to do something.
Yeah.
And that was certainly the case for us. As a sales rep, I love talking to customers that are like good qualified customers where there's a chance I can sell them something. I hate making 50 or 100 or whatever phone calls a day, leaving voice messages and being told no dozens or hundreds of times. That is soul draining, right? And there's elements of those types of tasks in just about any job, right? Where there are pieces that no one really likes to do, but you kind of do it because you know it's just part of what you have to do.
Yeah.
And really, that's somewhat at the core of what we are doing now at Think. Our mission is to save humanity billions of hours by helping people do better work, not busy work. And so that's what we're trying to help companies do. Now, you asked earlier about the adoption curve of AI and how open people are to AI. And there's certainly a spectrum, and we're shifting up that spectrum pretty quickly. But I remember one of the meetings we had with a customer, I don't even know if it was 8 months ago. We'll call it 8 months ago. And one of the business owners was not literally, but almost hiding under the table as we were talking about AI. They're like, ooh, do I want to be in the room while we have this conversation?
Well,
Because I'm worried about what AI might do or think. And fast forward to today, and now this company has fully adopted AI. They're using it on not just a daily basis, but almost an hourly basis on everything that they do. And they've been able to produce more in the last 8 months as a company than they probably had produced in the previous 8 years because of the acceleration that they've been able to experience. And there is a bit of a natural progression that people go through. People go through the progression, and then businesses go through that progression, right? The people progression typically starts with someone dabbling with a chat GPT or a similar program. It might be Claude, or it might be Grok, or it might be chat GPT or whatever, but some sort of an LLM. And it usually starts with them doing some sort of very inconsequential chat, right? Help me understand the the best way to climb Mount Everest, or whatever, right? Tell me a dad joke, or something that really has very little importance in their life. And it gives them a response, and they go, oh, that was actually pretty good. And then they'll try something else. And slowly they start to warm up to the idea that maybe this technology has some validity. And then they'll start to use it for things with consequence. Help me write this email, right? Help me know how to respond to this person. Help me understand how to conduct myself in an interview. Help me research this potential customer. They start using it for business related purposes, but it's very much outside of their process, right? It's, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, pause, do something with AI, learn, come back to my normal processes and continue forward. That's the next step. Then they get to the point where they're like, okay, how do I actually take the AI and pull it into my process so that I'm not having to pause and jump into something else and then bring outputs back? And then from that point, once they start to integrate it, then they start to say, okay, how do I get AI to do the process as opposed to support or aid the process? And those are the progressions that we typically see. And so as we're working with customers, many times we go in and we say, help us find something in your business that you would like to do that you are not doing today. So it's that inconsequential piece, right? Something that you're not doing today, but that you would like to do, and let us test there. And if it works there, then let us slowly start to bring this into more of a mainstream use case or process within the business. And invariably that progression happens very quickly, where they're very slow at first, slow test, wow, it's working. Okay, how do we get this everywhere? That tends to be the progression that we see. And most of our customers start with one agent, typically in a sales related role. Oftentimes we start with building an agent that can reach out to their old dead leads, right? The leads that no one's following up with anymore, the leads that maybe, a monthly newsletter gets sent out to them and the marketing team's, oh yeah, we're nurturing,
yeah,
right? We've not heard from anybody in this pile of old dead leads for 8
yeah.
months, but we're nurturing them for the future, right? And we'll come in and we'll have an agent reach out, call, text, email, start a conversation, and we start pulling sales opportunities out of these old dead leads. And the company goes, wait, where are these coming from? We didn't know there was anything left there. We thought that the bones had been picked clean. And then they go, well, how do we use this in other areas? And then it starts to grow very quickly.
Yeah, you solve like the dirty laundry at the end of the bed problem first. And then you realize, how can I just have it admin my house in the first place? And yeah, I've definitely had that same experience with AI when I experienced the full self-driving in Teslas. And like my wife is like that perfect example. Yeah, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. And then eventually we're like, yeah, let's just save some money. We'll put away like the full self-driving. Like we won't pay for the subscription. We'll just drive. Like we know how to drive. We've been doing it like our whole lives. And then
Yeah.
she's like, can we bring it back again? I kind of liked it. And it's because you just think about all the mental load of not having to focus is like intently driving, and how nice that is to have that cognitive load, especially like on road trips and stuff. John, do you feel like there's anything that hasn't been said that should be said before we sign off? And how could listeners find your
You know,
work?
I
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of great opportunities for both sales and product in the world of AI. Don't be afraid of it. If you're one of those ones that's hiding under the table, come on out, try it a little bit. There's obviously an appropriate level of caution anytime you're approaching something new, but I think it makes sense to proof yourself by understanding and learning the new technologies that are out there and that are available. If anyone's interested in learning what we're doing at Thynk AI, you can visit our website, thynk.ai, Thynk, thynk.ai. And we'd be happy to have a conversation with you about how we might be able to help implement AI into some of the processes within your businesses. We'd love to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think a lot of startup founders who are more like product and tech focused would love to have an AI do the cold outreach. So definitely reach out to Think AI.
I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
it is so fun to watch business owners' faces the first time the AI handles that sales process for them. Because on the
Wow.
back end, you can see what's happening. And they see a lead come in, they see it start to engage, AI engage, they see the customer engage back, and you see this communication happening. And then all of a sudden, they're qualified and an appointment is scheduled and it's put on a sales rep's calendar. It worked. It worked. It's almost like they don't believe us.
Wow.
And yet, if you go to our website, there isn't a way for you to reach us directly. You go through our AI to get to us. You'll have a conversation with Eric. He's our SDR, and he'll visit with you and talk about what we do and show you what he could do for your company, and then get you set up on an appointment with us.
Well, I didn't really know how far along SDR use cases were. So this was definitely a very edifying experience for me, because I'm like, oh, what can I do with a podcast? There's so many guests I want to reach out to. I just don't have time to reach out to ask them to come on the show. So now I'm going to go try it out. John, thank you so much for the great discussion and being willing to get into the nitty gritty of product sales relationships. You have a good one, and hopefully this isn't the last time we talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey listener, thanks again for listening to The Way of Product. As we power down today's session on the fusion of creativity and technology, let's solidify the energy you've gotten from our dialogue today. If you've gleaned insights or strategies that could turbocharge your projects, I have a small but powerful ask. Swing by the platform where you're hearing this and leave a review. Think of it as your digital high five to us. It's a fuel that propels this content to more creative technologists like you, amplifying the impact of the shared knowledge. So until our next interview, keep pioneering and pushing the envelope. Thanks again for lending your ears and your imagination to our community. Catch you on the next download.